This is A Rude Awakening. I'm Sabrina Jacobs. On today's show, I'll be speaking to fellow radio journalist and the host and executive producer of Politics Done Right from our sister station KPFT Houston, Mr. Egberto Willies. We'll be discussing the latest Trump S-hole lunacy. Stay tuned. On Thursday, during a non-televised bipartisan discussion on immigration reform, and in particular DACA, Deferred Action Childhood Arrival recipients, Trump changed his tune from creating a bill of love, as he stated in the televised meeting the day prior, to stating very plainly that Haitians have AIDS, and places like Haiti, El Salvador, and the entire continent of Africa are S-hole countries. And this was reported back by Democratic Senator Dick Durbin of Illinois, who was present at the meeting. It took 2 days for the Republicans to start walking back Trump's words and protecting what? Who knows? Him, I guess. And here are Senator David Perdue, who's a Republican from Georgia, on ABC's This Week. Senator Tom Colton, Republican from Arkansas, on Face the Nation. And Kirsten Nielsen, Homeland Security Secretary, on Fox News Sunday. These folks are on the Sunday shows doing what they do best. Denying it all.
Are you saying the president did not use the word that has been so widely reported?
I'm telling you he did not use that word, George, and I'm telling you it's a gross misrepresentation. How many times do you want me to say that?
I didn't hear that word either. I certainly didn't hear what Senator Durbin has said repeatedly.
It was an impassioned conversation. I don't recall that specific phrase being used. That's all I can say about that.
Trump insists, I am the least racist person, as outrage over remarks continue. And there's been a lot of hoopla, a lot of discussion about what did he mean by it? S-house or S-hole? What did he mean by these comments? The most important thing I think that everybody needs to take into consideration is the fact that he said that people from Norway should be coming to this country. That is coming from President Donald Trump. And it took a day for his Republican colleagues to refute those remarks and basically say that it wasn't true. Fake news once again. On the line to talk about this is Mr. Egberto Willies. And Mr. Egberto Willies is the host and executive producer of Politics Done Right down in Houston at our sister station, KPFT, down in Houston. And Mr. Egberto Willies, thank you so much for being on A Rude Awakening once again. I wanted to get your take on this because you are a Panamanian African American. I don't know which one comes first for you, but you can tell us and explain it to us. Thank you so much for being on the show.
It's a pleasure to be with you, Sabrina. I always enjoy your show. I am first and foremost a black man. That's what I always tell people, because that's the commonality, that's the string that brings all of us, whether it's from Africa to Brazil to Panama to Jamaica to the United States, Canada, Europe, whatever. The unifying thing is that we are considered black African Americans, is in terms of that went through the Negroization and all the other Asians that occurred in the United States. But first and foremost, we're all black. I'm Latino, Caribbean black, and that's what I tell folks all the time.
All right. Well, that was a mouthful, but I'll remember it, I promise. Absolutely. Out of respect. I mean, we're talking S-hole. He was talking about S-hole countries, S-house countries. I mean, what does it matter? Talk about mincing words, splitting hairs and whatnot. The whole continent of Africa is an S-hole or an S-house. The country of Haiti is an S-hole, S-house. El Salvador, S-hole, S-house. And those folks are the ones that are coming from Haiti and El Salvador in particular are the ones that are under the Protected Act, the temporary status immigration situation there because of natural disasters, the earthquakes in Haiti, hurricanes, the same with El Salvador. So in regards to that, he's making it very, very plain. He's making it very, very plain to the United States and to the global community where he's coming from. I mean, how does that make you feel as far as where you stand? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he wants his look. Donald Trump has no core. He has no values. He does whatever he has to do to survive or to placate some people. If you notice, the way this came all about was when he had his meeting with Democrats and Republicans, and Dianne Feinstein, your senator from California, actually got Donald Trump to say that he would go with a clean DACA. And when he was corrected by his Republican counterparts stating that, do you really understand what that means? And that's not what you're talking about. There was an explosion that occurred in the right wing. The people in the right wing went berserk because, in effect, they understood that Donald Trump, by saying a clean DACA, it meant they would not have gotten chain immigration taken care of. It would also mean they would not have been able to reduce the amount of people who could come from other countries around the world. So we had his right-wing guy, corner him and tell him, hey, gave him some numbers that implied that Haiti and some other countries gave a disproportionate amount of immigrants to the United States of America. And ironically, these folks are non-white. And what that also means is that, wait a minute, Miller told him that what's going to happen now is our base is going to go berserk, because you have to remember, we are white nationalists. You can't tell white nationalists that you're not going to reduce the population of the minorities that supposedly are making America browner, which would make America a majority not white country in the next 50, 60, 70 years, or however you want to calculate it. So he had to do something then. What he did is what happened in the White House with Durbin, where he talked about these countries.
Right. Well, Ann Coulter just flipped out when version 1 of that, the DACA conversation occurred, when he was calling it the Bill of Love and cozying up, and Feinstein was able to actually get him to give an inch on DACA, to extend it and to give these children, here by no fault of their own, some type of protection, to keep that protection going that was already in place during the Obama administration. To you, someone who migrated to this country, where do you see this going in the next 6 months or so? Because something needs to be done about the Dreamers, about the DACA kids, and something needs to be done about immigration in general. Where do you see with this recent revelation? And it's not really a revelation at all, because this man that's in the White House, the dotard in chief, he has a history of being a racist. We know that. It was known when he was elected, and it's just. I think it just. It's very revealing as far as who he is, where he's coming from, and where this country has taken us, putting him into office. Where do you see these talks going in the next 6 months?
I'll be honest. I think I see a stall. I don't see, because the problem is, if he gives in to give a clean DACA vote on a DACA bill, he likely loses even more of his base, because these guys don't even want the DACA folks staying in the United States of America. So he loses them, and if he goes ahead and denies DACA, we probably either have a government shutdown, or they get another continuing resolution to keep things going, and we just maintain the status quo for the next 6 months. What he may do, in my opinion, to try to force, let's say, the Democrats to act, is he may get vicious and just start deporting the whole out of all the DACA recipients, start throwing them out of the country, with the idea that that's going to scare Democrats into working with him. So we are in a very bad situation right now, all due to the type of president that we have, a president that has no core, and a president that is trying to appease the right side of his party. Now, everybody talks of him as being a racist, right? He's a racist. He's all these. He's a misogynist. He's all these things. But the most importantly, and this is going to sound like I'm speaking against myself, he's really nothing. He's what he needs to be in a particular situation. So he has no core. In other words, he has black friends. He has Latino friends. He has all kinds of friends. But the reality is he has no friends. He has no core. What it really means is that he goes wherever he thinks he can survive. So what I think Democrats have to do is create a survivable scenario for him. If he gets a survivable scenario, he'll ditch whoever he needs to ditch, like he has already ditched the people on the right, but he knows that they're too uninformed to understand that he's already ditched them.
Right. So it's just a love them and leave them, use them and abuse them and toss them aside kind of tactic. That is very, very true. Now, with in regards to now we've got Democratic Senator Dick Durbin, who actually came out and said that he said these things. Hate-filled, vile, and racist is how he called the remarks. And then we had Lindsey Graham, Republican senator, who validated it, who said, yep, that's pretty much it. That's accurate. Exactly. That is accurate. And I think what it's one thing to say, okay, yeah, these are, S-hole or S-house countries, but to follow it up and say, why can't we have more people from Norway? The Republicans are saying, the ones that are admitting that he did say what he said, they're saying that, oh, well, he was just saying that because he just met the prime minister or the president of Norway. And he was just, and it's like, no. This is a Trumpian base push. I call it the last stand of the white man, because they are terrified of the browning of this country. That is already happening. That is already in progress. I mean, as of 2014, the state of California is already, pretty much made that claim. That's it. Yeah, we're predominantly Latino, and I think it's the same in Texas. Can you verify that?
Yeah, the same applies in most areas of Texas. The problem that happens in Texas is, unlike California, people don't vote. If Texas, the people, and that is because of what I call soft voter suppression, right? People are not encouraged to vote. The voting is made a bit more difficult with the way you have to register to vote, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But you're correct. These people have an innate fear of the browning of America, and you kind of wonder, what is the fear? Is it the fear that you think these people are going to treat you the way you treated them? I don't think they have that. That's not that. I mean, if you take a look at when the wolf went into the church in South Carolina or North Carolina, I think South Carolina, and killed all those people. Yes. Those people didn't say, we're coming to get you. They said, we forgive you. That's right. The interesting thing about all these people that have been oppressed in this country is that they have been quite kind to the oppressor. That's right. We need a president out there, instead of stoking what we have with white supremacists and white nationalists, to be an educator of white people. That's what we need these presidents to do, because what we have is our president stoking the wrong thing. The most fearful people in this country right now are white people who are fearing, and I'm not sure what the fear is, the loss of power or the fear of what happens when power is lost. I'm not sure. I think it's both. I think it's I think it is absolutely both. And, this is something that was foreseen by them because of, we take it back to the whole the voting issue, the gerrymandering of a lot of these southern states by the Republican Party, by the RNC, and the push to have more Republican votes, and that was a concerted effort. That was planned. Even in areas, and this came to light. With what happened in Virginia, what would happen with the whole Alabama situation with Roy Moore and Doug Jones. Doug Jones still got elected, so it's very telling of how the suburban white Republican voters felt about the situation, regardless of all of that gerrymandering. And we also need to note as well that Eric Holder and former President Obama are working towards
reversing all of that gerrymandering,
right? Exactly.
and reversing, the illegality of creating these so-called districts so that they come out more Republican. I think that's definitely something that we need to note. We're going to take a quick little break here, and we'll be back with Mr. Egberto Willies. He is the host and producer of Politics Done Right down at our sister station KPFT in Houston. Stay tuned. Back with Mr. Egberto Willies. Woohoo, Politics Done Right. Give out your website, give out your information, let folks know how they can hear what you have to say, your version of events.
Well, great, folks. Thank you so kindly for having me on your show, Sabrina. It's always fun to be with you, especially knowledge. Look, one of California's most knowledgeable political hosts and otherwise, but you can reach me at politicsdoneright.com. Check out the show. We also have Politics Done, we do the Politics Done Right show at KPFT 90.1 FM in Houston on Thursdays at 3 p.m. But we also do a daily show on the internet, politicsdoneright.com. You go there and you can find out all about it.
All right. And what time does that the daily happen?
The daily is 3 p.m. as well. So
all right.
Check us out 3 p.m. every day.
3 p.m. Central Time?
3 p.m. Central Time. Thank you. We are all over the place with our Pacifica Network. We must tell we must give time zones.
Yes. And the beauty of the internet is that you can catch it on archive. You can catch it on the archive and download it at politicsdoneright.com. Politicsdoneright.com. Mr. Egberto Willies. And back to the conversation. I want to go back a little ways here. Let's go back about 20 years ago, 30 years ago. I want to talk about the history of this racist in chief that we are calling our president. This is just, it's sickening. I mean, back in 1973, the Trump Management Corporation was sued. The Trump family was sued by Richard Nixon's Department of Justice, of all Department of Justices. I mean, he definitely doesn't have a track record of being the most kindest person in the world. And they were sued for putting the letter C on the applications of black folks who wanted to get some housing in a Trump establishment. We got the Trump casinos. Black guys counting my money. I hate it, quote unquote. That was from.
Can you believe that?
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
Can you believe that? You only want, but it's interesting because the person that once he wanted to count his money was Jews.
Yes. I want guys that are wearing yarmulkes all day counting my money, quote unquote. Right? I mean, that's just sick. And then here's the other part that I just found out recently. When Donald and Ivana would go to the casinos, the bosses would order all the black people off of the floor.
That one I hadn't heard.
That's coming from, that was quoted from The Guardian, and, it's one of my favorite leftist publications to quote from. And then Central Park 5, taking out an ad in the New York Times, bring back the death penalty, bring back our police. $85,000 he paid to have that ad placed, or have it ran over a couple weeks, a period of time there. And I think he knew what he was doing by taking a side, and that was from Michael D'Antonio, the author of Never Enough, a 2016 Trump biography, yet another book about him, with all these revelations of who he is, and who he showing himself to be. Another situation, of course, the birtherist movement that he was, touting, show the birth certificate. He wasn't born in Hawaii. He was born in Kenya, speaking of former President Obama. Let's see here, Muslim ban and, Mexicans are rapists. I mean, it just goes on and on and on and on. And I want to say that I'm actually very glad when this latest controversy or so-called controversy came out, I was glad. I was glad that it came out. And you want to know why? I was glad because of the fact that this is a conversation that we need to have in this country. Exactly. We need to have it. It was this excuse, one of the microaggressions that I would hear from some white folks after Obama was, voted into office the first time. Well, I'm not a racist. I voted for Obama. It's just like, no, that doesn't that doesn't help. That doesn't assuage the grief and the issue of racism. You know what I'm saying? So these difficult conversations that a lot of white folks don't want to have are being forced to have because of the ignorance of this man that is now our president. And I think that's really, really, really important right now. Even with some of the most seasoned white folks who have dedicated their lives to working, for equality and equanimity within our society, they're being forced to have those conversations as well. I mean, there's a lot of...
There's some responsibilities, Sabrina.
Sure.
I think what is so important is that the number of white people that were willing, including white liberals, that were willing to support a Donald Trump over a Hillary Clinton, the number of white people that were willing to support Roy Moore, the number of white people that continue to support bona fide racist, bona fide sexist, bona fide misogynist, that begs a question. And one of the reasons they do it is because they equate the Democratic Party with a party that is one of the parties that they believe is pushing real equality, which in their opinion doesn't mean bringing other people up to the same level, but taking them down to that level.
That's a paternal racism. That's the paternal racism that where, white folks definitely need to check their privilege. They definitely need to check their privilege. Like, I don't want a handout. I want the ability to, I want the ability to make my life better. You know what I'm saying? There's only so far a handout can go, when we're talking about trying to survive, trying to live.
But the funny thing about it, Sabrina, is the big misconception is that somehow the propensity of the other, meaning people of color, to want more handout is greater than that of white people. That is not a truth. If all things being equal, everybody given the same opportunities, you would have the same bombs in every community, the same amount of successful people in every community, because we have all these externalities that are inputs to ourselves, and that's what makes who we are. And a lot of, we have to stop pushing the racism crap and realize just what it is, a social construct designed to keep a very, very few minute amount of people in power, with those other people that are fighting these battles being the guardians of those 2%. We'll talk about the 1%. The 0.1% has the defense of the 1%. The 1% is defended by the 5%, and the 5% is defended by the 20%. What that means is there's this cabal out there that have just enough to protect each other, and then the other 80% suffer like hell because there's this cabal that is protecting the gates. It's a long story for another show, but it all breaks down into who and why Trump is.
Wow, that is definitely a conversation for another show, because you just broke it down. I mean, you broke it down very simply for all intents and purposes of this show, and I appreciate that. But yeah, we definitely need to keep talking, because it's a difficult conversation. And again, I can't stress enough how glad I was when I heard what I heard. It disgusted me, of course, but at the same time, it's like we are at the precipice of it goes so far beyond, disparaging remarks against people of color, disparaging remarks against, specifically brown and black people that are in need and need to come somewhere to be able to survive. It goes beyond that. And I just think it's a wonderful thing, because we wouldn't be having this conversation if it wasn't stoked by, an overt racist in chief. I think that's just a wonderful thing. We've only got about, about 1 more minute. Give us your thoughts about 2020. Do you think this character's really going to run again for president? We got about 1.5 minutes. Go ahead.
Okay, if he doesn't get impeached, meaning, or if there aren't any, if people too close to him don't get convicted, I think he'll run again. And hear this: forget about the polls. The man can win again. Okay. If the reality is, if the progressive base doesn't do the work they're supposed to do, he could win again. And let me go. You asked me to do 2020. Let me back up to 2018. If progressives don't do their job in 2018, there ain't gonna be a blue wave. So what has to happen is, progressives can't be looking at polls right now and be basking in how unpopular Trump is. He was very unpopular. He won the presidency. We can't look at how bad people hate Republicans. People hate Republicans. They control the state houses in most of the states in the United States, as well as all 3 branches of the government, because the judiciary is now all appointed by Republicans.
Wow. Well, there you have it. And there is a movement. There is a blue movement that is in effect. That is happening right now as we speak. And I keep the momentum, keep it going, keep it coming, keep everybody active. Everybody needs to be active. All you young people out there, all you millennials of color in particular, it's time to pay attention. It is time to pay attention. All right, Mr. Egberto Willies, I know you got to get going and do your show, Politics Done Right. Again, Mr. Egberto Willies is the host and executive producer of Politics Done Right down at our sister station, KPFT, in Houston, Texas. And he's online at politicsdoneright.com. Mr. Egberto Willies, thank you so much for being on A Rude Awakening once again.
It was my pleasure. Thank you very much, Sabrina.
All right. And that does it for another edition of A Rude Awakening. I'm Sabrina Jacobs. A big thank you to my guest and fellow radio journalist, Mr. Egberto Willies, from our sister station KPFT in Houston, for taking the time. The amazing Rod Akil is on the reels of steel. I'll be back next week, same time, same place. Hard Knock Radio's up next. Have a wonderful week of resistance, community, and thank you for listening.
Black Lives Matter. That's what Patrisse Cullors and others articulated that has become one of our powerful movements for change today. As one of the co-founders of the Black Lives Matter movement, Ms. Cullors discusses her new memoir, When They Call You a Terrorist, Thursday, January 25th at 7:30 p.m. at First Congregational Church, 2501 Harrison Street, Oakland. KPFA Upfront's Kat Brooks hosts this KPFA benefit with wheelchair access. Tickets through Brown Paper Tickets, Marcus Books, and other indie bookshops.
You're listening to KPFA 94.1 and KPFB 89.3 in Berkeley, KFCF 88.1 in Fresno, and K248BR 97.5 in Santa Cruz. You can stream KPFA online or listen to our archive shows anytime at kpfa.org.
It is now 4 o'clock here at KPFA 94.1 FM in Berkeley, 89.3 KPFB in Berkeley, 88.1 KFCF in Fresno, 97.5 K248BR in Santa Cruz, and always online at kpfa.org. Please stay tuned for Hard Knock Radio.
2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1.